namite namine. Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pracharine Niveshesha Shunyavadi Astata Disha Tarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Sivasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Sivasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Yadvaita Gadadara Sivasari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Gurudeva Jaya Gurudeva Nitai Gora Hari Hari Nitai Gora Hari Hari Nitai Gora Hari Hari Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki
Jai.
So Vaishnav devotees ki my humble obeisances and greetings to all the devotees on this call. And we're going to continue surrendering to Krishna. Is a very big subject actually, and I can only, from my limited capacity, try to do it justice as best that I can. And we're going to continue. We're in session 4, and we've reached the point now where we're talking about devotional service. And because it's a transient group, some devotees around this group were not on, weren't on all the classes. I really can't ask anyone to recap. And also recapping really takes a lot of time also. But what I would say to the devotees is that although I'm going to leave time for questions at the end and queries about the class or about any aspect of spiritual life, if you do have any points that you want to make, then please, you can interrupt me at a certain stage, and then I can actually deal with that point there and then. But there will be time at the end as well. So I'll just do the pranams and pray for Guru Maharaj and the Acharya's blessings. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. Chakshvanmilitam yena tasmai Sri Guruve namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam yena Bhutale. Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uttapara Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamsa Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuetam Sarvadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Dalita Shri Vishak Anvitamsta He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate He Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavanishvare Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhavevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So it's by the Lord's kind mercy that we are able to have this opportunity to meet like this and to have association and also to actually worship the Lord through studying his wonderful pastimes and his instructions. And also we glorify Srila Prabhupada, because if it wasn't for the mercy and kindness of Srila Prabhupada, I speak for myself personally, I would be continually lost. And also because of Srila Prabhupada, I was able to meet my Guru Maharaj, and in that way. But I say that without any sense of, well, it's a nice thing to say. I say it in a sense of reality, because I certainly remember how lost I was, looking for, any little scrap of information that would actually lead me towards somehow finding out about the greater and real meaning of life. So we're extremely fortunate, and devotees should always be overwhelmed with this sense of gratitude, especially as we look at the world today and see how lost people are. And the purpose that I'm going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam will confirm this. So we're talking now, and we've got to the point where we're talking about devotional service. And the 9 processes of devotional service have been outlined by Prahlad Maharaj. And Prahlad Maharaj is a great devotee of the Lord. And he is actually, one of the Mahajans. And the thing is that you go to a university to become a doctor, you want to study medicine, you want to study engineering, you want to study, computer science. You don't have to work out what the syllabus is. The syllabus is already set for you, and not just for you, it's been set for years. And you simply follow that syllabus. And if you follow it in the right way, make the right effort, do the right things, you will actually come out with your degree, and you'll be on the road to becoming a qualified doctor, engineer, whatever. So similarly for us in spiritual life, when I was a Christian, it was never presented that it's a structured program. It was presented, the Bible is there, but it was never presented that you have, the authorities and you should follow the authorities. And if you follow in their footsteps, you will come to the same realization according to your ability. It was never presented like that. And it could never be because it was never systematic. But in Vedic philosophy, and especially in Vaishnava philosophy for us, it's very systematic. And that is why Srila Prabhupada calls it a science. Lord Krishna calls it a science, because it's actually presented like that. And to be followed like that, then we're guaranteed to get the results. So Prahlad Maharaj is actually saying, the 9 processes of devotional service. And if we're fortunate enough to follow even just one, as we will see, we're okay. But combination, and Srila Prabhupada made it easy for us. He gave us a certain combination and said, follow this combination and your spiritual life will be established. Your foundation for building on your spiritual life will be very, very well laid. So Prahlad is saying, Prahlad's instructions are, they're described by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam as follows. So the 9 processes are to hear from Sri Vishnu's transcendental, about Sri Vishnu's transcendental name, his form, his characteristics, his possessions and his pastimes, and to chant about those pastimes and to remember them. To serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to respectfully offer service to the Lord, to offer praise to the Lord, to become his servant, to consider the Lord's one best friend, and to offer him everything. These 9 processes are recognized as pure devotional service. And we're going to go through them a little bit step by step as we go through. So hearing, Shravanam. The hearing is very important. I do not know of any devotee or anyone who has become a devotee who did it in isolation from other devotees. There is no such possibility. It's like somebody, I want to become, a structural engineer. I want to become a doctor, a lawyer, and I'm going to stay in my room and do it. It's not possible. You have to go, under the instruction of some expert person. So hearing is very important. And we can talk about our own lives as a whole. We talked a little bit about that last week, how we came to Krishna consciousness. But most of us, one way or the other, we got some association from some devotee. We heard it. I remember when I was long before, even in my imagination, I couldn't have thought I would come to ISKCON. I'm coming home from school and I've got a little transistors. Those who are not old like me can't remember transistors, little pocket transistor radios. And what was played on the radio? It was the Maha Mantra. It was the Beatles song. And I remember listening as I walked down the hill to my house. So one way or the other, we're all getting established in spiritual life because we've heard or we're hearing. Those who are fortunate enough to be hearing for the first time, it's not so much you're hearing from me, you're hearing from the authorities. It's from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's from Srila Prabhupada's purports that I love so much to read and to share. Hearing is very, very essential part, of one of the limbs of devotional service. And one wonderful example, if not the best example of this hearing process, was Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj, he was, angrily cursed by this Brahmin boy, but he was faultless actually. His so-called misdeed was because given his position, actually, he was king. He was not even misdeed, but nevertheless, the son of this Rishi, Rishi Shringi, I think it was is the name, he actually cursed him out of anger. And then Parikshit Maharaj was given 7 days. So in that 7 days, he consulted what the best way to actually prepare for the inevitable. It was no way he could get around what was coming. He would die in 7 days. That curse was not reversible. So he sought instructions, and the instruction was, yes, you should listen. And Sukadev Goswami is there, so you should go and inquire from him. And the thing is that so much things and so much really nice points are in this Leela, which we haven't got time to go into full depth. But because he's a king, he didn't sit there in royal clothing. He didn't go with royal trappings. He went as a very humble, meek person. And Sukadev Goswami actually could recognize that. And in recognition of that, he also not only welcomed him, but at the same time, Parikshit Maharaj was asking real, very pertinent questions, real, essential questions, as befitted his position as somebody who was going to die. So just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam uninterruptedly for 7 days, he was able to hear that instruction. Of course, Maharaj did not have a Kali Yuga brain, but couldn't remember and retain information. He had the kind of brain and atmosphere where he could remember what he was told and what was instruction that was given. And also, Guru's blessing, spiritual Acharya's blessing, is actually very powerful. We in Kali Yuga, we actually sometimes, one of the things that gets diminished is our faith. Our faith also gets diminished. But it doesn't mean that acharyas, like Srila Prabhupada, the gurus, those who are qualified, it doesn't mean that they have no power and they have no authority and they can't bless. They can bless. But a lot of the reception of the blessing is depending on the faith and the surrender of the disciple or of the person. So that transmission that's going on of information is because both persons are qualified. Sukadev Goswami is qualified, and Parikshit Maharaj is qualified. Qualified because he's fully liberated person, and qualified because he's humbly seeking with no opinion. He's not going to throw back any questions. I don't know about this. I don't know about that. No, it's not like that. You won't hear any of that attitude because it's fully humble and surrendered. And therefore his questions and his inquiries are actually very, very meaningful. So hearing is very important. And if you haven't read anything about this, then I would say revisit. Even if you have read, revisit, because it's very instructive. And I'll end with some of the questions and the Srila Prabhupada's purports about the questions asked. So the first one is hearing, Shravanam, very important. And then Kirtanam, chanting. The same Leela is important for both, because, Parikshit Maharaj is hearing, and Sukadev Maharaj is actually speaking. But the speaker is also important. Kirtanam is part of Kirtanam. Kirtanam is actually speaking, but is also doing japa, is also part of that Kirtanam process. But it's very, very important. And we also know that the devotees, according to our capacity, one of the big lessons I've learned in spiritual life is that according to your capacity, do what you can according to your capacity. It's not that you have to be, don't measure yourself against, others so much. Do according to your capacity. According to your capacity, you can speak to somebody in your family, in the friends or outside, according to your capacity, because it's according to that you're able to actually do this, share your knowledge and actually share your realization. And by sharing, you also gain. For a long time, I think there's some of it still within me. I'm still a little bit hesitant about formal classes, sitting on Vyasasan in temples. I'm still hesitant about that. But the thing is, according to your capacity, you will speak. According to your realization, you will share. But that is also very important. So Sukadeva Goswami was actually a prime example of this kirtanam. And of course, Srila Prabhupada and all the acharyas are prime example. You speak, you share that which you know. As chanting is very important, kirtanam, second limb of devotional service. And the third is remembering or smaranam. Prahlad Maharaj was a prime example. Prahlad was so absorbed, and all the devotees have the same qualities, because as I say, it's not that to make spiritual progress, I'm going to invent my path. I'm going to invent my techniques. No, I may have a slight variation, but it's variation of the essential theme. So Prahlad, all the devotees will do the same thing that Prahlad did. Srila Prabhupada never forgot Krishna. And one example of this, never forgetting Krishna, is that you will see all the acharyas, they'll have their worshipable deities. And I'll refer to that again. They'll have their worshipable deities. They'll have their routines, of how they, maintain contact. They maintain contact with the physical deity. They'll maintain contact with their chanting, with their reading, and with their seva, But that remembering Krishna is very, very important, And Prahlad was able to do this to such a high degree. But of course, we have to remember, we're not dealing with ordinary personalities. Prahlad was educated from in the womb. He was self-realized from the womb. Narad Muni's ashram where he was staying. And Narad Muni was actually, whatever he was reading and studying, whatever he was vocalizing, Prahlad was picking it up. But just to be in the ashram of Narad Muni, you can imagine what kind of ashram that would be, what kind of atmosphere that would be. And atmospheres actually help. Environment also help. So even before he came out of the womb, Prahlad was a realized soul. And in that way, so he was fixed on the Lord. But still, when he was in trouble, which is a very important lesson for us to learn, when we are in trouble, when we're in difficulty, it's a very testing time to see what we do, So maybe I could actually just pause here for 1 minute, Nabi, and then just ask the devotees, when you're in trouble, when you face difficulty, how do devotees handle that?
Yes, this is a good question.
If there's anybody on the call, please, because it's very, very telling about our devotional life.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you, by Krishna's mercy. Thank you so much.
I think I dived in very early because I think I'm a very good example.
Good.
Of a certain incident that happened about a couple of months ago.
Yes.
When on the Monday and Tuesday, I was experiencing chest pains.
Yes.
On my in my chest. I would say probably 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. Was the pain level.
Okay.
I kind of contacted the doctors. Can't go in because of the corona.
Yes.
It's quite interesting, how serious they say the chest pain is. And a nurse rang me, told me, okay, next time it happens, ring the ambulance.
Right.
By the time Friday came, about 7 o'clock, I realized I had 8 rounds still to do.
Yes.
I started chanting 8 rounds, and suddenly the pain in my chest came again, and it was about 6 and a 7.
Yeah.
Then I started watching Krishna Leela for the next hour, hoping the pain would go down. And it didn't. It went to about an 8.
Yes.
And I did a few more rounds, and I thought, okay, I might as well go to bed. I'll sleep it off. As soon as I touched the bed, I realized that, I'm not gonna be able to sleep today. The pain had reached probably a 9.
Yes.
By the time I got downstairs, usually I had kind of pre-programmed myself. I will ring the ambulance and say this. I didn't. I just rang the ambulance and called them, explained the situation, told them that my front door will be open, and they said we will be there in 5 to 10 minutes. But although there were 20 minutes, at that moment in time, the pain had now reached probably 9 3/4. I was massaging my chest at this stage. And that usually the nurses say is an indicator that you're in trouble. Because you don't usually massage your chest, and it ain't going to do anything because the problem is too deep. Immediately I started looking at the pictures of the deities. I started, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advait Gadadhar, Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakt Vrind Ki Jai Ho, Jai Shri Narsingh Dev Bhagwan, Jai Shri Radha Krishna Chandra Bhagwan. And then I saw Guru Maharaj, I remembered Guru Maharaj, and I was chanting, and then it was incredible because as soon as I'd said Radha Rani's name at one stage, the pain actually went down from a 9 3/4 to about 6, 7, which was tolerable. My face moved again into the direction of Narsingh Dev Bhagwan, and the pain became slightly less. I always wondered, since that day, I always wondered, when I did say Shrimati Radharani's name, was it coincidence? What was happening? What was going on? It's, these kind of questions. But for me, the biggest, one of the best realizations in my life, I mean, to be honest, I look back at that day, and that day made me in the sense of, one, I knew where my heart was because I was not thinking about property. I was not even thinking about family or cars or this, that, and the other. Mine was totally fixed on the lordships. And eventually the ambulance came, and the rest was history. They had found that because my family's got heart condition in the family, they found that there was 2 small blockages where the arteries were bent, and they put 2 stents in. And since that day, it's just been recovery. I'm going for bike rides, started my exercise up. But for me, it was such a beautiful day because I think, Krishna consciousness is practice. And then when it becomes alive, and in situations like this, it suddenly becomes alive and takes a different fold. I kind of left with the message that that the lordships are saying, yep, good, you remembered us, but we want you to be better. We need you to be much, much better than what you are. This is good, there's something, but we want you to be, we want you to excel. And that's how I've walked away with the message that due to the mercy of Guru Maharaj, and it's because of the mercy of Guru Maharaj, and my mother in one sense, but more so Guru Maharaj, because my mother is also my Vaishnav Guru, making me watch pastimes of Ramachandra and Krishna. But Guru Maharaj was something else. And I think that incident reflects Guru Maharaj's blessings, because I don't think there was any capacity within me to do that. So I like to share that with everybody, So that was one time I remembered the lordships, and I spoke to Nabi Nandan Prabhuji a lot about it because he was rang me while I was in hospital, and it was an incredible experience. It was absolutely.
Well, thank you for sharing it, Prabhu. And that's really what we want to hear. Don't know if there's anybody else on the call who would like to share how they handle adversity. Well, I'm not going to drag it out. It's just that it's the thing is to do is that we will be tempted, and we're creatures of habits. So we'll do things that are familiar. We'll do things that, we have practiced to do. So if you're practiced to actually run to your neighbor, run to a family member, run to a friend, start eating all kind of things, run to the fridge for the freezer for the ice cream, whatever you're practiced to do, that is what you'll end up doing. But I would say that in the time of distress, when it's trouble that is not ordinary, it's extraordinary, like chest pains, it's cardiac, it's, I found myself in a situation, as you all know, when you know some of it, but you don't know all of it. I really was homeless. And then my homelessness was, I got a temporary relief. I was staying with some devotees, but they also changed their views about me staying with them. And then I became really homeless. And in that period of time, I can tell you, I was chanting 64 rounds. I've never before read the Bhagavad Gita all the way through, from cover to cover in one go. And I was doing that, you know. And I find that all those things, they help, they work. They really, really do work. So the main point is that in time of distress, you know, not little trouble, but real trouble, the secret is to follow Prahlad's example and to remember Krishna. And it's not coincidence that by turning to Srimati Radharani, you get relief. It's not coincidence that by chanting more rounds, you get relief. It's not coincidence that by reading more Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, you get relief. It's not coincidence that by doing more seva, you get relief. No, that's the Lord reciprocating with you. That's Him, you know, and the Lordship saying, yes, okay, I understand. I need you to know that I know about you and I'm in touch with you. So it comes like that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, just one little point I'd like to add with regards to my experience. What I realized was, like normally, like in today, if I was to go in front of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Dear Shri Krishna, etc., and do my prayers, but the prayers that came out at that time when I was on the chair and looking, you know, I look back and go, whoa, you know, where did all that come from? The intensity and the feelings of the prayers were in distress, you know, were 100 times more, I would say, powerful than they were in now in the normal situation when everything, pardon my French, hunky-dory, everything is fine. You know, it was under that stress. It was like the lavender being crushed, and then the fragrance came out, you know, and that's what I really, you'd really appreciate about devotional service. And I thank all of you, you know, my senior God brothers, for, you know, encouraging me on as well. Jai Shri Radharani, Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Guru Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And that is true what you've said. All of that is very true. You can't get that intensity unless you're in trouble. When you're in trouble, it becomes intense. So smaranam, remembering, is very important. Turn to the Lord. And then serving, you know, pada sevanam, serving the, you know, the lotus feet of the Lord. The really wonderful example of this is Lakshmi Devi. She's always serving, you know, in a selfless way. And for the devotees who have their deities at home, like I know that somebody remarked recently that I think they came to see Nabi and Jayanti, and they were saying, wow, the home is like a temple. Well, it is a temple. It's not like a temple, it is a temple. So those deities have to be served. So when you're serving, and it doesn't matter if your deities are big or deities are small. I've seen so many sannyasis come through the temple, and I've seen when they set up their altar, and generally their deities are very small because they have to travel. It doesn't matter whether they're small or big. The degree of service is really important. I know Shiva Maharaj very well. In that way, always his service to his deities. But he's one of all the Maharajas are like that. You know, I could say all the senior devotees are like that. Their service to the deities are very important. Then if you've ever got the chance to be a pujari in the temple, then you'll understand as well that service to the Lord in that way. And I would say to any devotee, if you ever get a chance to actually get to that stage where you've got Brahman initiation and you're able to serve the deities in the temple, you'll be able to actually understand a level of service that is beyond your home deity service. It's very demanding in one sense, but it's very connecting in one sense. You feel really connected. I was telling Nabi recently how Radha Madhav, I miss serving Radha Madhav, because that service is very nice. You know, dressing, bathing, you know, offering prasad, offering arti is very nice. There's a connection that you get from that service. So in that way, you know, the fourth aspect of this devotional service is pada sevana, serving the Lord's lotus feet. And then the fifth is deity worship, which I've in a way touched on, but in a sense we could extend it, because Prithu Maharaj, here he is. Actually, it is said technically Prithu is not an incarnation of the Lord in that sense. Prithu is an advanced devotee who is so powerful in his advanced state that he's able to actually, function almost like an incarnation of the Lord. But actually, Prithu is not a full incarnation of the Lord. He's an advanced devotee. But still, in that advanced state, everything that he had, he practically offered everything to the Lord. He was using everything, not for his personal sense enjoyment, but simply for the, worship of the Lord, for the benefit of the Lord. And when a leader does that, has a selfless approach, has an approach that I am not the authority is Krishna, everything changes. Everything changes. Everything that they does and that they do is of a more significant nature. So in a household also, when you get mother and father, Patidev and Dampatni, and they actually have that attitude that everything that we have is for the service of the Lord. That's the first priority. Everything tends to flow very nicely in that way. All the resources are used very nicely. So deity worship is very important. And I've touched on that in the last one also, in number 4. And then praying, Vandanam. Again, in what Preet was saying, and some of the things that I've said, but offering prayers to the Lord. You can't offer those prayers unless you're in distress. Here is Akura. He's going to actually to see Lord Krishna and Balaram. And he is just offering prayers. And he's offering prayers when he sees Lord Krishna's footsteps. He's offering prayers again into Yamuna. So many wonderful prayers. But you have to be able to have a certain mood by which you can offer those prayers. And you can see the devotees, there's something about being in distress that evokes a certain mood. Queen Kunti offers some of the most beautiful prayers because she was always in distress trying to protect her sons, the Pandavas, always been put into so many difficult situations. So in that way, the devotees need to be able to actually understand this is a leg, of devotional service. Vandanam, offering heartfelt. These are not just intellectual prayers. That's why you can't offer the same prayers, tomorrow, when your situation has changed, you can't offer, you want to offer the same prayers, but the mood is different. The distress has gone. Your heartfelt desire and your appeal that is not there, it's not in the same way. So we have to get to the point where actually, not only when we're in distress, but at every time, we can actually offer that heartfelt prayer to the Lord. But prayer is a very important aspect, of devotional service. It must be there. And then 7, dasayam, executing the orders. Hanuman is a great example of this, intimate servant of Lord Ram, executed all Lord Ramachandra's orders, no kind of difficulties. Our Guru Maharaj used to talk about, because he was very much, so much in love to read and to actually, and to understand and to try and preach about the characters of Ramayana, that many times he would be speaking about how Hanuman and how intelligent Hanuman was, how committed Hanuman was. And it took me a long time to understand when Hanuman went to Lanka and he saw Mother Sita in her dilemma. There were so many tricks were being played on her, so she didn't know who to trust, but she knew that she couldn't trust any of them. Ravan and Ravan's, cohort were always trying to get her to actually break her chastity or to just to comply with her situation. So when Hanuman met her and, saw her, Hanuman realized, no, I can't approach her. Look at the body that I have. I can't approach her like this. She's never going to accept that's not Ravan's trick. She's not going to accept it. So he was so intelligent and so very faithful to the Lord's instruction. But his intelligence was what really stands out. how he actually spoke to Mother Sita, you know, not revealing himself, but speaking about Lord Ram, and then eventually giving her Lord Ram's jewelry so that she could become fully convinced. And then when she became very curious and more open and more relaxed, then he was able to reveal himself, but all under the mission of Lord Ram. And even when he went to the Ashok garden and started actually, you know, tearing things up and eating the fruits and breaking things up and then beating up all the soldiers who would come, all of that also, and then burning, you know, so much of Lanka, all of that was also in the Lord's service. It is said in Ramayana, he could have challenged Ravan, but he left that for Lord Ram to do. He didn't overstep his position as a sevak. And this is a very important point. I could go as far as to say, this executing the orders of the Lord, we will never be able to do this until we come under the instruction of a strong bona fide spiritual master. Because only under the instruction of a strong bona fide spiritual master will we be able to understand that we are in fact servants. We are in fact servants, and our business is to follow the order of the Guru. It's very difficult for us to do. It's not at all easy. So the Guru teaches that, yes. And sometimes in the beginning stage, the Guru shouts as well. He shouts. I've never seen Guru slap, but I've seen him shout. That's because the devotee can't understand. He can't understand his position. He's sevak. Still wants to run his own program, still wants to make his own decisions, when all he has to do is follow what is being taught, and do it in a nice way, in a faithful way, in a sincere way, in a committed way, and then see the result. That has to be learned, because our program of staying here in the material world, as we'll see, and if we can't finish all of this in this class, then we'll just run it over with Nabi's permission into the next class. There's lots of items from the purport that I want to read, but these points also are important to be made. That our stay in the material world, why we're here, is because our program is based on false ego. I am important, I am in charge, and I want to have my house, and I want to have my car, and I want to have a big business, and I want to have this, and I want to have that. And my family and my dynasty and my nation and that propels us, because that's the momentum for material life. It's very difficult then to execute the orders of the Lord. We don't want to give that up. It's very much hardwired. You know, it's interesting to note that, especially all those, you know, mothers there who are on this call, what's usually the first words that your child starts saying? It's usually no. Some of the first words your child is saying to you, no, no. And they're very proud of saying no. And then from no, the vocabulary extends, but usually starts with no. Or mine, something like that. One word, but it's usually I've come to fulfill this mission, and that is to be in charge of something. So, you know, Lord Hanuman was a very, very good example of this dasya, you know, being faithful and following the instruction of the Lord, regardless what personal difficulties it brings. And then 7, serving as a friend. Hanuman also duplicates with that, but it wasn't such an intimate friendship, although the Lord loved Hanuman, Lord Ram. But Hanuman always was in the position of, you know, sevak. He didn't go beyond that, you know. But Lord Ram and Mother Sita loved him very much and showered every blessing, every type of Siddhic blessing that you could get, Mother Sita gave to Hanuman, you know. So Hanuman he gained everything simply by being so faithful in his service. But here, Sakya and Sakyam, serving as a friend, here we also see one very good example. 2 examples come to mind. One is Arjun, the other one is, you know, I'm thinking the name just slipped me, Navi.
Draupadi?
No, it's male.
Ah.
Lord Krishna it's
Sudama.
very
Sudama.
So not Sudama. It's similar relationship to Arjun, but more intimate. Lord Krishna sent him to Vrindavan to talk with the gopis. Uddhava.
Yeah.
Very two wonderful examples, Arjun and Uddhav. Very close friendship with the Lord. The Lord is so intimate with them. He's showing his love for them, showing his friendship for them, and in that way. So in that way, Arjun was close to Krishna and offered himself. And Lord Krishna, because of that friendship, because of that love, he offered himself in the most menial way. You know, in when you think about it, also being a charioteer is such a being on the battlefield is dangerous, but being a charioteer is especially dangerous because you know you're the first one probably to get that arrow aimed at you. Because when you stop, then the chariot stops. So really an interesting situation. But Lord Krishna volunteered. I will take the reins of your chariot and I'll drive you because, and as he goes on to say in Bhagavad Gita, because you're my dear friend. He gave Uddhav also very intimate personal instruction because you are my dear friend. So in this way, you know, Sakyam, being a friend of the Lord, and I can give the example also what happened because fortunately by Guru Maharaj's mercy, I went through the stages. I didn't get to if Guru Maharaj had stayed in the body longer or if I have maybe have advanced quicker, but it was getting to that point where, you know, there was no more shouting going on. He was not raising his hand almost to slap my head off. We'd gone past that point, and we got to the point where there was, like Navi will know, there was real trust. There was real trust. The relationship was one, you know, of friendship. And sometimes I'd be massaging Guru Maharaj, and he would just, you know, massaging his legs, he'd put his arms around your shoulders. Not just because he wanted support, he was giving you encouragement. Or other times, you know, he would come and talk to you in that way. So the relationship, you know, it will be and it can be established of friendship and genuine friendship. Because I'll tell you, when your guru is your friend, when Krishna is your friend, you have a real friend. It's unchangeable. No one can break that relationship. And actually that relationship, there's no betrayal from it. He will never let you down. Lord Krishna will never let anybody down. So Sakyam, you know, offering yourself and the Lord actually reciprocating with you. And the only way that Lord Krishna, the reason why did he choose the Pandavas? You know, it is said in Srila Prabhupada's purports that on that battlefield, all those millions of warriors, the only ones left standing were the Pandavas. Everyone else was finished. So Lord Krishna wanted the deeper story. He wanted to establish. He made Arjun the first recipient of Bhagavad Gita in this new millennium. Yeah? And he also was actually establishing, you know, Yudhishthira Maharaj as a righteous king. Because he's saying, yes, I come to finish a religion and I come to establish, you know, religious principles. So he was using the Pandavas. The Pandavas were qualified for him to be able to do that. So this friendship is very, very important, Sakyam. But one has to be qualified for it. And then once it's established, it's absolutely wonderful. And then Atmanivedanam, you know, Bali Maharaj complete surrender to the Lord. This is very big. And this is the whole point of, you know, what this class is about. Not just this, but all the classes. It's this process, you know. So many, wish we had time to go into all the leelas. Every picture tells is a whole class on its own. Because we know about Bali Maharaj. Bali, for a long time, he was on the side of the demons. And always the demons and the demigods, they have got different values. So therefore there's clashing. And Bali got to the point where he became so powerful. And he was going to actually get to a point where he could permanently, challenge and defeat the demigods. And then the demigods went through Indra and they complained and they appealed to the Lord. And Lord Krishna said, okay, I'll come. He came as Vamandev and he took everything from Bali in such an easy way. Only the Lord could do it like that. From a small dwarf boy into a gigantic, you can't imagine how gigantic that form was. And then when he took everything from Bali, he said, no, 2 steps I've taken everything. Now where shall I put my 3rd step? Lot to the Leela, because in the first place, the Guru was saying, I know who that is. Don't even talk to him. Never mind, give him something. Don't even talk to him. You're going to be defeated. And he actually rode and disobeyed the Guru, which is a very difficult thing to do. But if you're going to disobey your Guru, disobey, because you're going to be loyal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's a very technical point. Otherwise, don't disobey your Guru. But in this instance, he could, he should, and he did. Because his Guru was not in line with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He couldn't see. Although he was well qualified, he wasn't so qualified that he could actually see. And more than that, he wasn't surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the point I made earlier about how we come here to be in charge, how we come to enjoy, and to actually, we have that so hardwired within our personality that even when you become a very big personality, Sukracharya, then there's the likes of Sati's father, Daksha, so many, a big person. These are not ordinary personalities. Daksha wasn't that ordinary personality. He was head of all the Prajapatis, all those who were creating population. He was king of all of them. But still, he couldn't understand properly who Lord Shiva was, which means he couldn't understand properly who the Lord was. He didn't fully understand who Lord Brahma was because he neglected Lord Brahma as well in so many instances. So this ability and this propensity for us to actually want to be in charge is very strong. So when Bali Maharaj made that decision, he's always going to be remembered because he did what was so hard to do. Even though his spiritual master was against it, he completely fully surrendered to the Lord. Completely. Yes, where shall I put my next step? My Lord put it on my head. And in that instance, the Lord pushed him down to the lower planet. But he didn't leave him because surrender means you're now surrendered to me. Huh? And then because you're surrendered to me, I will protect you. And the Lord never breaks his promise. We can break our promise, but he never breaks his promise in that way. So, Atmanivedanam is very, very important. Tell me how much time I have, Nabi, and then I'll just decide.
You can probably stop for questions now. It's 5 to 5.
Okay, all right. So then next week, if you say it's okay,
that's good.
Then what I will do, I'll read these purports, quite a long purport, as many verses there, and then we can do that because Srila Prabhupada will explain really what was going on with Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. Okay, so I'll stop here. Any questions, any queries, any points of clarification from any devotees? I welcome them.
There's one point which Bhakti Rasayan Maharaj mentioned yesterday.
Yes.
Which was quite nice. Like when we have challenges before us, how to deal with them. Like Prahlad Maharaj, how he dealt with his, what he was facing from his father. He didn't ask for protection. He didn't counteract it. He didn't fight back.
Yes.
But he simply continued to engage in his devotional service.
Yes.
Smaranam, remembering the Lord.
Yes.
So it is a similar way when we're facing these challenges, rather than perhaps fighting back, which is our usual, my usual response anyway. No response, which we sort of do anyway, is continue with our devotional service.
Yeah.
Let it be hampered, and let the challenge be there, but it doesn't stop us from continuing with whatever service we're offering to the Lord. And in fact, increase that service. So I like that very much, because that's like when Pitambara was saying, you know, he was facing that challenge and he increased his chanting.
Yes.
When you facing your challenge, you increased your chanting, and
Exactly.
we do the same as well. So that's the right mood. That's the right mood. Increase our service rather than face these. Take it positively rather than, you know, negatively. Yeah.
Exactly. But within that, you haven't said it, but you mean it, is that for you to increase, you have to surrender, which means that you're more dependent on the Lord in that instance. And that is the magic. I'm very fortunate in that from I was a small boy on my, so I'm talking about, I came to UK age, I think I was something like 8 or 9 years old. So when you can remember, so I can remember in my household back in Jamaica, I stayed more in my mother's household. But my father's father also was a minister. So he had his church, but I wouldn't spend so much time with him, but I would just, you know, see. But in my mother's household, that was the way that they practiced. It was always like that. If somebody is giving you trouble, you don't get the machete and go for them. You start to pray and you ask the Lord to sort it out. You know, so that's been with me for a very, very long time. The Lord is the real person to sort out the problems. You simply have to surrender to him more. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to do, you know, and we will follow our habits. So we have to learn new habits for some of these things, you know, how to depend more on the Lord. But he is the real solution. And his solution always is perfect. His solution doesn't have bad side effects. Sometimes we solve a problem, but the side effects are so bad that is as bad as the problem itself. But when he solves a problem, generally there's no bad side effects. It's really neat. And the word for it is elegant. He gives an elegant solution when he gives one. Okay.
And another interesting thing is, like with Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't even pray to the Lord, sort that fellow out, you know, sort my dad out, yeah. Just being naughty. And that mood, that, you know, he would always think, oh, my dad's just playing with me, you know, threw him in a pit of snakes. He's just playing with me. So that innocence, that simplicity is what the Lord really...
Exactly. You know, I saw through Jessel. I don't know Jessel's initiated name, so maybe Kamakshi can actually say. So I still call him Jessel, which I know is offensive. I shouldn't call him Jessel. But he sent me a link to a class that Persaram gave. And it was a very nice class because some things that Persaram was saying, they really resonated with me. They really resonated in so many ways. So if you tell me the last point you made, Nabi, and it just slipped away what I was saying.
Oh, it's you know, we don't even ask for protection for a particular person. We just continue with our bhakti, you know.
Okay. So
Kamakshi was just saying his name actually.
What is it?
His name is Jai Subala Balaram Das.
Jai Subala Balaram Das. So
yes,
you know, and it's very, very nice what he did. So Pershram was saying so many nice things. And the very, very point that I wanted to make, I can't, it'll come back to me. It'll come back to me and I'll make that point. But it resonates with what you were saying.
Yeah.
Anybody else Any questions, any queries? So in conclusion then for this week is that those 9 processes of devotional service, they will not all come natural to us, but one of those 9 will be more natural to us because of our personality, because of our upbringing, because of our association than the other. Any one are very good, combinations are very good, but there is no possibility of seriously making spiritual progress without adopting one of these, or combinations of these 9 aspects of devotional service. So we should start to think about them. If we already got some aspect of that which we are currently practicing, then we should complement ourselves and continue, simply go deeper. One of the lessons I've learned about spiritual life is that we may be chanting, but there's so much more depth for us to go in our chanting. We may be reading, but there's so much more depth for us to go in our reading. We may be serving, but there's so much more depth for us to go in our service. So in that way, we should actually just continue practicing these 9 limbs of devotional service. Jai. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Guru Maharaj ki. Jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.